5 months then.
Hey,
We,
if you want,
Evening, Tom.
we're gonna be booked up, you know. Well, as it turns out, that's not a big deal, but we got it right. I'll get our afternoon or something, yeah.
Okay, but I'm.
And it's not a big deal.
Get away. Good, how are you? You sounded good on the radio.
Yeah, they think.
She was there for a few minutes. She had to get a couple signatures for Project Prom. Yep. So she couldn't. No, I didn't. So. Yeah. Yep. Yep. Yeah, it's early in the season. Early in the season.
Are you a fan of Hawkeye Haven or Hawkeye Heaven on Facebook? Did you see the Carlisle and Nevada game? They were shaking hands and about this guy and just sucker punched the first guy. That he shook his hand in the stomach and then he knocked him out. And then he started tackling.
Yeah.
High school kids?
High school. Nevada and
Should be done. Be done forever.
Their program should be shut down for the year.
Yeah.
I think that's probably what's gonna end up.
Yep, that's done.
I
They-
just was,
It's gonna make national news next year.
oh, of course it will. Iowa, so.
Wayne.
No, I saw that.
Anyway.
That doesn't happen in Florida.
What are you talking about, Kurt? Kurt? Kurt, what are you talking about?
There's a high school basketball game last night. And they were shaking hands after the game, and the kid were punched on the opposing team.
Really? Boy, look out, you better start wearing a face mask. If they gotta do it to each other, they'll do it to the ref.
Oh, I don't have to do anything. We're live.
Check, check.
What school you go to? Show. You're a senior.
All right, everyone, we are ready to begin.
You about got your year over with, is it?
All right. Okay, sit down. If you would, please, please stand and join me for the moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, if we could have a roll call, please.
Wayne Barahona,
Here.
Tom Eggers,
Here.
Brad Hinn,
Here.
Ken Snyder,
Here.
Pete Hamill,
Here.
Partially. Bear with me here just a sec. All right, we have the agenda in front of you. We need approval of that.
So moved.
Support.
Roll call, please.
Hinn,
Aye.
Snyder,
Aye.
Barahona,
Aye.
Eggers,
Aye.
Hamill.
Aye. Okay. We're now at the public forum section of our agenda. Is there anyone here today that wants to address the council at this time? We do have a few visitors today. Sitting at the table next to Todd is Neil Patel, senior at Sheldon High School. Neil is here to has been job shadowing Sam today and has an interest in public administration, perhaps, or engineering. So we're glad you're here. Thank you for coming. And we have 3 students from Western in the back, I understand. Would you care to state your names? And they're here as a part of an assignment from their government class. Welcome to you as well. Thank you for coming. So, if there are no public comments, then I'm not going to read the normal rules for that. So we'll just move on then to our consent agenda item. take a motion to approve that as well.
I move we accept the,
I'll take that as approval, and Fairholm is the second.
take your pick.
Yep. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Excuse me, let's have roll call. Wrong meeting.
Snyder?
Aye.
Hamel?
Aye.
Kent?
Aye.
Farahona?
Aye.
Eggers?
Aye.
That was that other meeting.
That's right. All right, no old business, so we're going to move on to our new business. The first one being a resolution updating the roster and compensation for SCAT volunteers. And with us today is Kristen Hahn, the director. Did you want to address the council at this time, Kristen? Okay. You have that in your packets, what the, there's some changes, some increases in hourly rates, others go down. Overall, it's probably not a real big change the way it looks to me. So, any questions for Kristen?
I hope the new structure helps you. Yeah. I have no questions.
Okay.
Make motion to approve.
Support.
Any other question or discussion? Roll call, please.
Farahona?
Aye.
Hamel?
Aye.
Eggers?
Aye.
Kent?
Aye.
Snyder?
Aye.
Moving on then to item B, we have an update on the Sheldon School District Turf Project, and with us today is Corey Meyer. He's going to give us an update on that. Corey, step forward, please.
Yeah, not a whole lot new to share. You guys have all heard the kind of turf presentation, so I won't go into a lot of detail. I'll give you the option for some questions if you have them. But fundraising has gone really well. We did add a digital scoreboard component to the turf project. That came about as we talked to some businesses and just their desire to be able to do some advertising, and so that component came about with it. So we have 3 different tiers to that advertising. They could have one of the top spots, which was a donation of $100,000 that could or more. The one donation that was up there, Sanford, was $150,000 over 5 years. They can get a lower section, $50,000, $10,000 over 5 years, or kind of a digital scrolling logo on the side of the scoreboard, and that's $10,000, so $2,000 a year for the 5-year time period. So we added that in. Fundraising has gone really well. The ask that we had for the city was $150,000 to be a partner in that. With that, we had a logo spot at the top up with Sanford, that we were going to have a spot up there. The Sheldon Orab logo would kind of be across the top, and then we'd have Thunder down at the bottom for NCC. I think you guys had in your packet a design, kind of what that would look like. We also have the ability with the digital scoreboard to run commercials, and so Daktronics, the company we'd be working with, does professional commercials, and so the city could run a commercial on the scoreboard as well, different during any of the high school activities and also during NCC soccer when those activities happen. And as you know, when we talk about impact and people that are involved, you're talking about a lot of high school kids are going to be involved. Youth program, there was just an article in the paper about 1,400 kids participating in youth programs, which great numbers there for the rec program, lots of kids involved in different activities that way. And the NCC soccer program, like we've talked about before, just pretty impactful. The fact that we're going to have collegiate sports here in town, which is pretty exciting, and the impact that'll have. Total fundraising, if the city comes through with a $150,000 donation, the amount remaining from the public would be just under $100,000 that we have left for total fundraising to completely pay for the project. So that's kind of an update. You guys have questions on anything?
What's your timeline, Corey?
So we're hoping here in the month of December to wrap up as far as the fundraising piece goes. So we're hoping here community-wise that we'll finish off that last $100,000 here in the next couple of weeks, and yeah, that's kind of the goal.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Thank you, Corey.
Thank you, guys.
So I guess the question at hand right now is, are we in support of this? Do we want to offer our preliminary support? We really don't have it in the budget for this coming year, so it's going to have to roll over into our budget discussions and then fiscal year for next year as far as funding, paying for it. And the other question is, where is it going to come from? We have some options available. We haven't explored those entirely yet, but we're working on it. I guess that's the question though, is do we want to give our preliminary support for this project?
I'll say from my chair that I'm very pleased with the fundraising that Corey and his people have been able to pull off up to this point. I'm pleased that the amount has gone down from 250,000 to 150,000. And I would personally challenge the community to match that remaining 100,000 as quickly as possible so that we move forward with the project. I think we should consider the 150 that they're asking from us through our next budgeting process and see what we can do to support that. So.
I guess I've had some feedback from the community both ways. I've had some people that didn't think the city probably should participate. I've had some other people that were extremely supportive, and my thought is that we have had great success with joint support of programs between the city and the college and the school system, and I certainly think that we have to continue that. As to what the details are, that we have to iron out yet.
Okay. Thank you.
This is the set price. I mean, is there a chance it'd be lower, or how did you come up, that's the balance price?
So it'll actually,
Could you step to the mic, please, Corey, because we can get it on recording?
the school board will be discussing this next week. We have a board meeting on the 8th, and at that time, we're working with Beck Engineering, and Beck Engineering is working to put it out for bid, so we'll be putting it out for bid in December. So we've gotten preliminary estimates from a couple of companies already, just because we had to have some starting point. Now, having said that, Beck Engineering put together their estimate, what they thought it was going to be as well, and they've done lots of these projects already, so they have a pretty good idea. So they came in with a price. We had another company quoted out, two other companies. Both of them came in a little bit lower. Beck said, ironically, as prices for so many things were going up, they said they felt pretty comfortable that this could come in actually at their preliminary or even a little bit below. So we're still at an estimate. We don't know for sure until in January bids will be due, and we'll know the amount exact then, but feel pretty comfortable that we're in the right ballpark.
Anyone else?
I'm with Pete. I've had both pros and cons, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it leans a little bit more. People that contacted me are the pros. But you'll always have.
Yeah, you'll always have people on both sides of it, and I totally respect that. If NCC were to build something out at NCC, they'd be looking at $5 million plus to put in the whole complex out there with bleachers, with lights, with field, with everything. So when we think of a community investment, partnering together just makes sense, and if the city can be involved in that and help bring collegiate sports to town, pretty big bonus for our community.
If you look at our history with the LLRC, out of the partnering with the college on that, partnering with the school on the softball field complex, baseball field complex out there, those projects have been extremely successful. They're used. People are, I mean, it's one of those amenities. We talk about that all the time in economic development as well, the amenities in the community, and this is one more of those amenities that makes Sheldon a great place and draws people to town, whether it's for just a day for the soccer match or down the road and they want to live here because of what this community has to offer. And I would agree. I think that with you, Pete, that we need to stand together on this one and move it forward. It's good for Sheldon.
I think we need to move forward with it. Only thing I'm concerned is where we're going to get the money from. It's been thrown out that use local option sales tax. You look at the sheet here at the end of the budget, at the end estimated balance of 6/30/22 is $10,000 in that fund. Where are we going to get the funds from? That's what I want to know before I commit to it. I strongly think that the marketing committee should also kick into this. That's taxpayers' money. Ultimately, the city council's responsible for. So I'm all in, but I want to know where the money's going to come from first, before I say yes on a motion that we're in this game or not, because I want to know where the money's going to come from. Because if we're using lost, that's pretty negative. We went from 157,000 to 10,500. We just can't keep throwing money out of that lost account, or we're going to be in the hole. So that's where I challenge the city council, where we're going to get the money from. Before I say yes to it, I want to know where the money's coming from.
Any thoughts on possibilities? Sources? Sam?
Angie, maybe you can help me here. Was it last week or 2 weeks ago, we had a correction check from the state on local option sales tax, and that is looking better than it has in some time. So that the numbers are up there, and local option sales tax really wasn't impacted by COVID because of all the ordering that was happening online, and those sales are taxed. The hotel motel tax was devastated by COVID, but it is coming back. I do think there is an opportunity for a blended approach. I don't want to get ahead of the marketing committee and their discussion, but I think it's something that they could discuss. And if you scroll down to the bottom of the agenda where Brad was looking, I also have I have an update there on lost and hotel motel tax. I thought it would be a good place to put that. And our official direction on how hotel motel tax is directed really is 5 years old, and it's a handwritten note from the budget workshop. And if you look at how we're, we had a 5% tax, now it's 7%, and so 4/7 goes to the marketing committee, 1/7 is to the park fund, right? And then 2/7 is to the pavilion. So we have an opportunity in the upcoming budget process to discuss how the pie is directed as well, or how the pie is split and what the marketing committee actually considers. So I think the way that we could structure today's motion, for hopefully a unanimous support would be to simply say, let's move this to the budget workshop, and this discussion to be subject to the upcoming budget workshops, and we'll have a separate agenda item for it underneath the other requests, and go from there.
And you're comfortable with that scenario?
I am. There's a lot of competing priorities, and we'll have quite a few priorities that we'll be. We're in the process of putting together the budget now. It's due to Angie and I on December 17, and there's a fair number of expenses that we're going to be looking to the local option sales tax fund for. Brad is correct that the projected balance at the end of 22 is $10,000. In addition to that, we do have the $327,000 in reserve, which we had discussed if we needed to, using that for grant match, for USDA rural development. So we'll have a fair. I think, as much as we like turf, I think to make a motion today to approve and write the check probably would do a disservice to the budget process. But I think we can express preliminary support conditioned on the upcoming budget process, and that means that the direction we would take out of that motion is we will prioritize, and we will find a way to make it work, and then ultimately we'll need to make the decision together at the budget workshops. Did I answer the question?
And
if the community steps up with more, then that would be less for us. Is that the way it works?
Well, they still said, even with our investment, they're still gonna need another 100,000 on top of that.
Right.
So,
Right.
so unless someone,
Really steps up.
so, yeah, some retired pastor decided that he had $250,000 in his pocket that needed to get rid of.
I like the turf, but I'll help mow the grass.
There you go. I'll make a motion that we are generally in favor, and then we'll workshop this during budget time.
I'll support that.
Any further discussion?
And the final decision will be made in the budget hearing?
Yes.
Right.
May I ask a question?
Yes, sir.
Kurt or Heidi, do we know when the marketing committee is meeting next? Has that been scheduled? Or would that be a...
December is strictly an email meeting because of the number of conflicts and the inability to get quorum. So the first time we'll have a live meeting is in January. I've got numbers. I can speak to any of it. If you like to do now, or if you want me to be on an agenda prior. I mean, I know several of you already get this because you're either sitting on the SCDC board or because you also get all of our, like underneath it, all our information.
A brief update be appropriate?
If you're willing to do that, that'd be all right with two, yeah, if you want to step forward and share what, some of the information you've got.
Sure. To Sam's point, obviously, as the city knows, that COVID was devastating to the hotel motel tax. So we did several things we were carrying a cushion because of the pledge that we have to the pavilion, and that allowed us to keep current on that up until this year. And as you know, we were not able to make our final payment, $20,000 by June, because we just didn't have that in the coffers. We also each year make $42,000 in pledges to some major events. We make a $20,000 annual pledge to Celebration Days, $10,000 to Rise Fest, $8,000 to the Village 3rd of July celebration. And then we have historically done $2,000 to the Prairie Arts Historical Society and also civic music. We made all of those in 2020. We made none of those. We were not able to in 2021, but because in 2020 they didn't have those events, and we always pay the three big ones in the first quarter because for Celebration Days, for Rise Fest, and for the 3rd of July, they need to be able to make deposits to hold vendors. So we generally have been able to pay those in the first quarter of the year. Well, we did that. So this year, I contacted all of them and said, okay, the understanding was since we paid those pledges in 2020, you didn't have the events, we can't pay that in 2021. So given that we made those pledges in good faith, and all those organizations were very understanding of that. And so there's $42,000 that we didn't pay out this year, but we need to reinstate, or we should reinstate next year because those dollars are important to those festivals. There are also several, if you go down the reserved funding items that we have within the marketing committee, be it Merry Money or the Hanging Baskets projects, we pay easements to each of the expressway bypass welcome signs, but then also we give several line items to advertising for the SCDC because they don't have that within their budget. So if you add those things together, that's just shy of, that's $29,950 more, and we put a hard, just wouldn't let them use that advertising money. We just didn't have it last year, and this year we were really, really restrictive with it because we just there were other things we have to pay for the flowers, and we have to pay for the easements, and, you know, things like that. This year, we were not able to cover Mary money. That was taken care of out of monies the SCDC had from, was it Comeback Cash or Comeback Cash or the COVID relief. And so there are several things that will need to come back into our budget next year, but it's going to take some quarters of recovery for us to figure out what we're able to do. So while it may seem like, well, once the marketing committee gets that last $20,000 to the pavilion paid, they're good to go, we can just replace that pledge. No, not necessarily, because we've got several things in here we haven't been paying, and for instance, we won't have enough in the first quarter to pay that $42,000 in pledges. We're going to have to kind of pick and choose which ones need to be paid first, and go from there. And then there are, like I said, there are things that we need to put back. Mary money will be something that we need to put back in the budget. We need to pay for that during the third quarter because of when it happens. And so it's going to take us a while. We used all of our cushion to keep ourselves current for as long as we could on the pavilion, but now we don't have a cushion, and so we're just we're coming forward and catching up with that. And there were new things that we took on that we didn't have before. The chamber lunches, for instance, those are covered by the marketing committee, and that was an expense that we didn't have before, and there are 10 of those in a year, and so that was a budget that we really underestimated in 2020 because we didn't have them, and then we didn't know how they'd bounce back. Well, they bounced back really well, which is wonderful, but that expense has been more for us. So there are just, it's Sheldon's 150th. We're already getting requests to the marketing committee. Can we have additional monies to do things? It's hard. We've not been able to answer that. The Trails project has come to us for a pledge. Normally that's a community, we try to look for things. Does it add to food, fuel, and lodging? And we try to be good stewards of that. But right now we've not been able to commit to anything like that because I'm not comfortable with that, and neither is the committee, because until we get another year under our belt and get caught up and get some of these pledges, I mean, like I said, we've got 42,000 plus Mary money, so we've got almost 50,000 of things that have been in our budget that we just couldn't pay this year, and we're going to need to try to put them back, but we may be a year and a half to 2 years away from where we're really rolling again to be able to pay things on time. And to both Celebration Days and Rise Fest, we were asked to increase those annual pledge amounts. Rise Fest, in good faith, they can ticket the number of people that they have coming in, and they came to us about 5 years ago and said, what about $1 a head if you continue to, you consider the people that are coming into town, and we had agreed to consider that if the number kept going up, but we just weren't able to do that because we had obviously other large pledges that we were paying, and so same with Celebration Days. We've had to say we've got to hold you at that amount right now. So there are some other things that are major tourism events that are coming to us saying, hey, we'd really like if you could increase more. We just haven't been able to, and so there are several things we haven't been able to consider. And hopefully, it's a great committee of people. It's an active committee of people. I have done more email meetings, to be honest, because there haven't been any real financial decisions to make, because it's pretty simple when we're not able to consider a lot of these projects. These are we pull a lot of, as you all know, a lot of our active committees, we pull from a lot of the same pool of talented folks to be on those committees, and I don't want to have people come sit at a meeting just for the sake of having a meeting. So we're doing December, but we'll try to get the ball rolling in person again. Yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks for the insight on that. Question that it raises for me is, can you get the group put together this month? can you address what your recovery is gonna look like?
We have already.
So that we have the information during our budgetary.
You bet. We actually already in
Conversations.
November, I start our proposed budget, so actually, I can actually get it to you. Well, the one you'll have is from last month that I sent out, so I just updated it again today because we just cut bank statements last night. So what I lay out is what was our 21 budget,
Right.
what was our 21 actual to date as of now, and so then what's our 22 proposed budget. And I do have that worksheet ready, and that's actually what at the end of our last meeting, we said, we gave preliminary approval to that, and with the understanding that I'd update it with the numbers as of November 30, I'll send it all back out again. And there are a couple things.
So did that include the consideration of this project?
No,
within
not at
that?
all.
Had your committee been approached with the possibility of supporting that?
We just,
So why didn't that get considered in your budget?
because we have all these other things, for instance, that I just explained, these things that we haven't been
Right.
paying that we need to try to put back, and we just don't have that sitting in, we just don't have extra yet.
So did your committee talk about the details on why you can or can't support this project moving forward?
We did. I mean, largely, there's, as I told the committee, it's not, there's nothing emotional about it. They're just numbers, and they either work out or they don't. And
Because in the past, that 20,000 would be going towards the pavilion, correct?
it was, right,
So-
but we also had a
So what was the
buffer.
discussion around that in regards to either this project or whatever else you've directed it towards in your budget?
Sure. Because we got all the way down to nothing, the feeling has been, hallelujah, if we can get this pledge paid, then we can hopefully get rolling back with this $42,000 in annual pledges that we weren't able to pay, and that Mary
Right.
money. So like I said, we're 50,000 that we need, that we don't have to pay those things without all the other items in our budget yet, without all the other things that we pay for.
Yeah,
So.
and I understand that. I'm just saying is
So we
that-
just, it's not, so, and I see what you're saying, but basically,
So how did you come to a decision not to put it into your budget?
we just didn't have we didn't have the monies for it.
Well,
And, I mean, there was discussion about prioritizing
Okay.
these things, and there was heavy in favor of supporting these annual pledge payments, and then because we've already gotten requests for the 150th, or increasing celebration days for the purposes of the 150th, that needed to be a greater priority first if we've got the monies.
I'll take a look at what the proposed.
But I'll
budget
get
is.
that, I can get that all to you.
That would be great. That'd
Smart,
be
because I'm going to email it out to the marketing committee, which means Sam will get it, Kurt will get it.
Okay, yeah.
I still think we need to challenge the marketing committee to fund this project. That's the only way it's gonna happen, because like I said before, we can't continue to take it out of local option sales tax. This is a marketing project. I challenge the marketing committee to help fund portion of this project. Not all of it, but a
I
portion
was
of
gonna
it.
say, I can't support putting the whole thing there.
I can't support putting the whole thing in the law.
I think we have to explore sources.
Yeah,
That's
and
why you
that's
can't
certainly
commit
one of
tonight
them.
then.
Right.
well, yeah, and that's why we would go to the budget workshop. Yeah, we can't expect a fund that has been decimated by COVID to take on new responsibilities when their responsibilities are to the people that they've already committed to.
But you also have that with local option sales tax.
And I'm not saying, Brad, that the marketing committee wouldn't consider a lesser pledge. I don't feel comfortable saying that we could make any kind of commitment in 2022, because we just don't have, and I'm not comfortable taking on a $150,000 pledge, because that would essentially, if everything we have is completely tied up, that removes the committee's ability to, when the trails or when the folks for the 150th, you know, when people come to you during the year, that's one of the reasons why there are other cities that took their hotel motel tax, put it all in a pot, they collect all year, and then they accept applications throughout the year. There's a committee that reviews those and they take it down to zero by December 31st. The reason that it was decided in Sheldon not to do that was because it was decided that they wanted to have the ability to respond to things that come up during the year, whether it be new projects or festivals or things like that. If there's no, and that's, I guess, at the end of the day, the marketing committee is a subcommittee of the SCDC. If everything is completely allocated, I'm not sure what you do with the marketing committee, and that's neither here nor there, I guess, right at this time. But like I said, I think the committee would be open to a lesser pledge, but 150,000 would make it pretty difficult for us.
I don't think anyone's trying to strong arm the committee or say that the committee is
I've never
not
thought
doing
that
right.
you
I
have to
just
do the
think
whole thing, no.
No, but
I just think
participation.
we need some transparency into how you process this request
Sure.
through it, and understand what is feasible and what isn't. So
Sure, and
that's
we
all.
did. We did actually have a full meeting about it. We were up here, and we had the committee was given all of the handouts. I think right after all of you were. So we did. We just at that time. There was just no way we were able to financially consider that, and there were some other things the committee felt strongly that we had to prioritize first.
Yeah, I'll be glad to look at that. Thank you.
But yeah, and then again, just to be clear, on the marketing committee, we do have, so Sam is a committee member and gets all of our communication. Kurt sits on the marketing committee, and then Trevor Gatula, who's the SCDC board president, sits on the marketing committee, and then monthly, all of our budget information goes to the SCDC board,
Right.
and I believe there are 2 of you?
But I don't think the preliminary budget is in that yet, is it?
You always get it in January.
Yeah, so
Yep.
if we could get it a little earlier, that
Yep.
would be helpful.
Yep, and we're, like I said, I can do that, it just won't be, it'll be as of November 30 instead of 12/31, but that's
That'd
the
be
way the
fine.
marketing committee's gonna get it too, so, and it won't change a whole lot.
I think it would help us a little if we could. So,
Yep.
Thank you.
Yep, absolutely.
Thanks.
Couple questions, I guess.
Yeah.
And I don't want to put you on the spot, but do you think it's feasible? I mean, I realize you have to crunch the numbers. There's lots of pieces of the puzzle that got to come together every time we go through this budget process. There's so many things that come together, and it may or may not work. We're making it's just a preliminary, showing our preliminary support, and we're hoping, I guess, can you offer your preliminary support subject to the blended, some type of a blended plan, like Sam mentioned?
It would, to a lesser dollar amount that we could consider, I
And
mean,
maybe
but
it's
not
accelerated over
100, not
5
a
years.
6-digit pledge, no.
No, but, I mean, whatever, but not that you would be doing all of it, and we're not asking for that. I think it's everybody working together to try and make this happen.
Sure.
As feasible way
I
possible.
think we could consider a lesser pledge, and it would have, and I would certainly say it would need to be over 5 years, and I'm just not sure we could start in 2022. Again, it's hard to know because we're always guessing at what these checks are going to be,
Right.
And especially right now. I would say yes, that we'd be glad to consider some sort of a shared, at a lesser dollar amount. Right now, because there are so many things that were in there, we're in our budget, but we didn't actually pay them because we couldn't this year. It's hard
Okay.
to guess.
All right. That, your holdback or your reserve budget or balance, that fund or whatever, what is the balance on that right now?
Currently with we have some outstanding check items. We're currently at $19,315 because we try to keep money because the first check of the first quarter is never enough to help us to cover the $42,000 in pledges, and so that's why I think probably we're not going to be able, we may have to just make some decisions about, we'll get those pledges we hope made by the second quarter, but to those organizations, and maybe if they know that our pledge is coming, they'll still be able to make some of those vendor reservations and things as normal, but that's why we typically do them in the first quarter, and that's why we try to have a holdover in December so that we can do those first quarter checks regardless of what the March check looks like.
Very good.
Okay?
Anything else? Thank you, Heidi.
You bet.
So we have the motion on the floor. You've heard the numbers. Are we ready to vote?
The motion was the final decision we made
Yeah, why don't you read it for us here?
In
the
favor
budget
of,
process.
Right.
in favor of discussing during the budget workshop with final decision at budget time.
Okay.
Okay. Roll call, please.
Hess,
Aye.
Farahona,
Aye.
Eggers,
Aye.
Hamel,
Aye.
Schneider.
Aye.
Good.
Just as a side note, Heidi mentioned the celebration days. That's also something we're going to have to talk about in the budget process. It's already upon us because the pavilion today, we've been struggling with what are we going to book. We had some groups that are losing that date already, so we need to do this sooner than later. So the budget process has to have some discussion along that line.
All right. Let's move on then to item C, the capital improvement planning. You have the plan there, both 5 and the 15-year plan for emergency services, and comments on the airport one. Anything you'd like to share with us this time, Sam, regarding that?
I don't have anything to add.
Okay. Any comments on the plans currently? Yes, sir.
Yeah, so, my departments make up about $17 million of this plan, so it's a chunk. But, what I would like to talk about is in the water department. In the last year of this plan, we have $4.22 million from this account. You knew that number back when you approved the expansion agreement earlier this year. But what I did want to shed is that number is dollars in today's dollars. And when that number was inserted in the plan, I had told Sam and some other city staff that I didn't think we need to utilize any of that money in this plan. But I also had told you guys when you approved the expansion commitment agreement, the infrastructure bill got approved, that could change and gear up. So what I want to tell you today is that after talking with the Bureau of Reclamation, I met with 2 officials from the Bureau of Reclamation today, one out of Salt Lake City and one out of Montana. They came to town to visit us today. Anyways, they find it likely that they're going to have money, hopefully figured out how it's going to be programmed by January, and they're going to be looking to wanting to go ahead and get construction projects. Speaking with them, if they get their total $1 billion, like it's proposed, we might be better off on the front side of that $1 billion, on the back side, because if it takes 5 years to disperse the money, inflation happens, projects cost money. My point is, the Lewis and Clark board is going to have some decisions to make, and based on some numbers that I've seen, I will not be surprised if we don't start asking for money in the current fiscal year. If projects hit the ground. So that would require potentially a budget amendment to pay some early costs, because the way we showed you in the expansion commitment agreement didn't have any funds coming out the door until 2027. I think I had stated, that might move up a couple of years. Now I'm telling you the way things are looking, it may move up 5 years, which is, some of the early numbers aren't so bad, and it kind of depends upon which path the board takes. I challenged the banner, the engineers from Lewis and Clark, to come up with a couple of different scenarios for Lewis and Clark to consider, because the one that I received in last month's board packet has big money already next year. Doesn't give us a whole lot of time to plan. Angie and Sam and I have had some conversations how we can cover some of those funds. I had them put together a plan that took out so we don't pay so much early. price tag at the end, maybe as much as $12, $15 million more. So the Lewis and Clark board is going to have to make some decisions as to what's right or wrong for the 20 entities. So the number's there, it's to the back, it's likely moving to the front. I wish I could tell you right now today how much money we needed at what time. I can't, I don't want you to be surprised when you see it.
This is the 4.2 million you're talking about, the Lewis and Clark expansion number?
Correct. Which if you remember in the expansion commitment agreement, it's 4.2 million in today's dollars. It was anticipated in that agreement that it would be something closer to 6.4 total, right? Because construction can get drug out for over a long time. So it's possible that Sheldon is going to, in phase one of the expansion, you recall there's things in phase one of the expansion that we planned on doing now because there's significant savings to the 20 members. They're not needed to reach 45 MGD, but they're needed to reach 60. But it makes sense financially to put them in now. What the Lewis and Clark board is going to have to juggle because of this infrastructure bill is how much of it do we do now to get maximized savings and how much do we do later. And what they decide as a group, what we decide as a group, will depend upon how much money we need and when.
Yeah.
It's not a bad thing because it means it's coming and it's coming quicker. It just doesn't give us as much time to plan as we had hoped.
And I think therein lies the challenge to all the members is whether or not they can ramp up that quickly. There's a reality in that feasibility as well. So having different options that show different ramp ups would be helpful, I think.
Yeah,
not just to us, but all.
Right, which is what Banner is preparing for us 20 board members,
Yeah.
and I mean, I'm only one vote of 20 there.
Right.
And if 11 say yes to a plan, that's what's going to happen. That's the way that system is set up. It doesn't matter if you get 1 million gallons a day or if you're Sioux Falls and get 27 million gallons a day. We're all one vote. Right. We obviously have some concerns about some of the quick ramp. That will take some challenges if that's the route the board goes.
Yeah, I'd be surprised that my question isn't the same one that's in other councils as well, so. Very good. Glad to see some options on that. So.
Yeah, but don't be shocked when you see requests soon. That's the message I wanted to get across today.
We went from snail's pace, now we're going to a...
Well, we do, and when I first seen that document in my board packet, I went, what the heck is this? This can't be right. But if you think about it, the expansion commitment agreement, and rightfully so when you approved it, was assuming around $15 million a year of funding coming. That's the only safe assumption we could make unless the infrastructure bill passed. Now that it passed and potentially there's a check coming for $132 million, it just changes things a little more than what I realized it would.
Yeah.
But in a good way. I would still argue in a good way.
Oh, good way. Yeah, we're seeing progress now.
If I might. Yes, sir. Todd, I have a question on the airport, and I've just thought of it. And I'm sorry to spring this on you. Have you heard anything from Andy on the status of the FAA's approval of the plan?
Application.
Okay. So the way I see this then is we can go ahead and approve the plan today, but if the FAA comes back with some sort of a change that the airport commission needs to review, we could end up with having a special council meeting.
Highly unlikely because the FAA give their preliminary support of the plan. Right, that's why it went to them a month ago already. Okay. So it needs council action today, the airport portion. Okay. Because we have to send that in soon. Very soon.
Thanks.
All right, are there any other comments, direction, or anything like that? Any of the plans that we have in front of us? Is my interpretation there's no action needed to be taken, we'll just get it.
I recommend a motion to approve all three.
I was gonna say I'll make the motion to approve all three capital improvement plans.
Support. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Snyder.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
Hens.
Aye.
Hamel.
Aye.
Farahona.
Aye.
All right. On to section 7, the reports. Sam, is there anything else that you want to share with us?
There is. We have a very important Planning and Zoning Commission meeting next Wednesday at 4 p.m. on December 8th, and the main item on the agenda will be AGP's request for a vacate of Railroad Avenue. The notices, I think, went out today? Monday. And so want to get the word out on that. So once the Planning and Zoning Commission has considered that, then that comes back to will come back to the City Council, and then simultaneously the zoning permit itself, because of the setback requirements, will need to go to the Board of Adjustment, and that meeting needs to be set at some point too. So there's a lot going on with that, and so that's going to, Todd and I and Micah have spent a good amount of time on it. It's an exciting project, but we want to make sure the neighborhood is well aware of the discussion, and they are invited to attend the meeting.
Anything else?
No.
Todd, do you have anything else? Kurt? Scott's not here. Angie, anything from you?
No, thank you.
Micah?
I do not, thank you.
Council to my left.
No, thank you.
No. And to my right?
Just want to reiterate again to the community to continue to recycle curbside. I know I'm sounding like a broken record, but I think it's a good message to get out there. We appreciate what we have accomplished to date, and continue that path is good. So that's all I have, Mayor.
All right, and I have nothing further either, so with that, take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Support?
And roll call.
Hamel.
Aye.
Snyder.
Aye.
Hens.
Aye.
Eggers.
Aye.
Farahona.
Aye.
Very good. Thank you, everyone. You're adjourned.
Sure,